why Baylor's game against the new BYU is actually more important than Baylor's game against the real BYU, and why it's going to determine the entire season.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of 365 Sports. I appreciate you making this your first listen today and every day. The everydayers, the newbies, the diehards. I love having you guys here, especially on a Friday where we're talking some football. We're going to look at what one expert thinks is the biggest Baylor football game of the year. And I'm not going to lie, it took me by surprise, but it makes a ton of sense. We'll tell you why. Plus, the SEC and the Big Ten, just another example of why they need us, why they need the Big 12. Whether they will admit it or not, the proof is very much in this pudding. And we got Baylor UCF men's basketball tomorrow night. Very intriguing game. We get a surprise X-factor for you in that one, and then looking ahead to the women taking on TCU, unfortunately. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. But we start where we start. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be very open and honest with you guys. I did that show yesterday with the whole Greg McElroy take, which is hilarious. His take, if you missed it, well, go back and listen to yesterday's show. Don't listen to tomorrow's show. That doesn't make any sense. Listen to yesterday's show. But Greg McElroy basically said that Baylor was going to have a bounce-back season in part because Dave Aranda is now calling the defensive plays. As we know, that's not the case. He's finally, mercifully, waving the white flag and relinquishing his play-calling duty on the defensive side. So, thankful for that. But it got me thinking. I'm like, okay, I'm back in the web again. You know, I've been reading too much Jacob Haddadin, too much Jackson Posey, too much, of all these people who are actually around the program. I'm reading too much Grayson Grundhafer, people that actually know what's going on in this program. So I thought, why don't I go out and look at some more of what ESPN has to offer? What are they saying about the Baylor Bears? And they did an article that was each team's most crucial game, most important game in 2026. And I said, all right, feed me this. I am ready to dunk the basketball on ESPN about football and who they think Baylor's most important game is. And Max Olson, great national writer covering college football, wrote up the Baylor blurb. And I saw it immediately, and I said, here we go. Because it's not the game that I would have picked. It's not the game we picked both with myself and Sydney Wicker a few weeks ago. But here it is. They have the most important game of Baylor's season against the Arizona State Sun Devils on October 3rd. And here's what Max Olson had to write about it. While the opener against the new-look Auburn squad in Atlanta provides an intriguing test, you might recall that was my biggest game of the year, Baylor's first few conference games will tell us a lot about whether Coach Dave Aranda has the right answers to get off the hot seat and get the program back in the Big 12 race. Sorry. Compose yourself. Okay. The Bears' 27-24 loss to Arizona State last season came down to a last-second field goal. Winning this one on the road could take some heat off heading into a bye week with rival TCU up next after that. I get it. I see what he's talking about there. Not that they're going to get back in the Big 12 race and get off the hot seat. I don't see that playing out. But it's a very interesting argument. So I had said Auburn because, Auburn is also a new-look team, right? Very much a new-look team, and probably not quite as talented as they were last year, although it led to them having a 5-7 season, beating the brakes off of Baylor. And I think Sydney had said TCU, which was a couple of weeks later. That obviously super crucial game. It's a game that Dave Aranda does not win very much. I think Jacob Haddadin said that one as well, TCU, because Dave Aranda never beats them. He's beaten them one time in his tenure. and it's coming off a bye week, much like it was last year. And it's your biggest rival. But this is actually a really compelling argument. Arizona State is a fascinating team coming into this year because they don't return a ton, but they do return at some key positions, especially on defense. And they've been a pretty stout defensive team in the Big 12 the last couple of seasons. And CJ Fite is coming back. One of the most underrated, I guess, players in the country. He's just not talked about enough in terms of some of the great pass rushers, defensive linemen in the entire country. The dude's an absolute horse. He's staying there for his third season. It's not something that happens a lot in this new era in the Big 12. And really, that loss to Arizona State last year, I think, is what tipped the scales in the wrong direction for Baylor. We didn't know it at the time, but it set them at 2-2, and they were not quite the same team after that. And you look at Arizona State, they're probably going to be stout defensively. They lose their biggest weapon in Jordan Tyson, and not for nothing, they lose their quarterback as well. No Sam Leavitt there. And it was an offense that was really in flux all of last year. It was not balanced. Obviously, Leavitt didn't play a good chunk of the season. It was just kind of out of whack. I think Kenny Dillingham did a good job to kind of get them where he got them because of that uncertainty at the top of the food chain when it comes to the quarterback. And now they've got two freshman quarterbacks listed on their depth chart. Neither one of them has thrown a snap in anger for the Arizona State Sun Devils. So this is a big test. It's your second Big 12 game. So before that, you will have played Auburn, a couple of cupcakes, Colorado. Do the Chalamet here. Cupcake if you decide they are. They lost two more games. Lost two more games than you did last year, which is tough to do. And then you go on the road against Arizona State. Not the toughest place to play in the world. Take that from a Baylor fan who knows what it looks like when you don't have a very tough place to play. Night game, be hot for sure. That could be a good little test for Baylor in terms of the last couple of years. They've actually done better on the road than they have at home. You remember 2 years ago, Dave Aranda was like, I don't know, maybe we need to boo these guys and get a road atmosphere in here. And in our home games, they do band together on the road. And this is a nice opportunity early in the season to say, hey, you're going to go up against a really good defense here, DJ. You're going to have the quarterback advantage in all likelihood, which is not something you could say about just every game this season. And it's going to, I don't know that Arizona State is going to challenge for the Big 12 title, but A, they're going to be ranked to start the season, and B, I think it'll give you a good look at what teams will challenge for the title. Teams like Texas Tech, teams like BYU, teams in that second tier like Houston, who are defense first, who can get after the quarterback and kick butt in the trenches. You will have seen probably a strong defense already in Auburn, and you're going to see all three of those aforementioned Big 12 quote-unquote contenders in November. You're going to see Houston, BYU, and Texas Tech actually 3 weeks in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So you're going to get a heavy dose of what this Arizona State team looks like later on in the season when the gales of November come in. And you might need to win one of those games to make a bowl game. So I don't know if Max Olson dug this deep into it, but I think this is actually a really good point. And the teams that have won in the Big 12 the last 2-3 seasons, and I think the teams that will continue to win in the Big 12 are not the ones that are putting up video game offensive numbers. Arizona State, Iowa State, BYU, Texas Tech. The last two Big 12 championship game matchups, all of those teams were built on defense that had decent to good quarterback play. As we saw, of course, with Baron Morton against Oregon, that team was a defense-first team. Now, the part of this article that really did stick out to me even more so as I looked through the rest of the Big 12. You know whose biggest game of any Big 12 team, you know whose biggest game is actually against Baylor, according to ESPN? Nobody's. 404. Address not found. Not a single one says this game against Baylor is going to be their biggest game of the season. Tough to blame them, but it's a hard pill to swallow. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I've asked this question before. I'd love to hear from you again because I think this is a really good point by Max Olson, if I'm being honest. What is the biggest, most crucial game of the year for Baylor? Like, if you're expecting a Dave Aranda September firing or mid-season firing, this Arizona State game on October 3rd could go a long way towards that. They're probably not going to be favored to win, just as we look at it in February, but that could go a long way, especially if you get embarrassed on the road against Arizona State the way you did at home against Utah last year. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and then like and subscribe because that helps me out a ton. When we come back, we're going to talk about the very lifeline of the Big Ten and the SEC and why it comes from America's conference, the Big 12. That is coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our good friends over at Game Time. You heard the story yesterday. My dad, the Duke alum, got to go to Duke versus Michigan because I told him to go to Game Time. And we are in the biggest stretch of the college basketball season. You hear that knocking at the door? Yeah, next episode we have, it will be March. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few steps. That Game Time guarantee means they're 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time and at the best price. And the best part, the fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during this hectic time of year. Take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON, locked on, all one word, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app and do it today. Today's episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. You guys know what time of year it is. It's the draft. 18 different flavors to choose from. We have got the 5 Hour Energy flavor draft. And boy, do they have so many newcomers. These are the guys, these are the flavors that really popped at the combine and at their pro days. Well, we've got the board here, and I've got my number one pick. Okay? I'm looking at a lot of these fruity flavors, man. They call to me. Okay? Cherry. Love that little cherry on top. Love a good Hawaiian breeze. That really keeps me going throughout the day. That passion fruit, the orange, sour apple. I love that in my candies. It's that apple that bites back a little bit. But I'm going with the strawberry banana. Okay, that's two different fruits in there. I mean, two is better than one, right? It's got that strawberry flavor up front, but that mellow banana finish. Very low acidity. Easy to drink, which I absolutely love. Gentle and sweet aftertaste that lingers with you for a while in the best possible way. So I'm going with strawberry banana. Who are you going with? Find your new favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. Once again, that's 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. And man, if you guys don't want to hear me yapping so much during those breaks in between segments, boy, do I have the place for you, okay? Because you hear my voice enough. We just want to talk about Baylor. You want ad-free audio. You're going to get that from the Everydayer Club. If you're already coming in here every day, why don't you make it official? You can get Locked On Baylor ad-free with that Everydayer Club, and plus, you can join the members-only Discord. Just join at the following URL. You need to listen to me here. LockedOnBaylor.supercast.com. That's LockedOnBaylor.supercast.com to join the exclusive community of fans, the very tippity top. We call them the Everydayer Club at Locked On Baylor. So check that out today. Now let's shift our focus a little bit, because I hear it, you guys hear it, all over the college football world. Those of us rooting on our teams in America's conference, the Big 12, get slighted all the time. All the time. Minor league. They don't play real football. All the big boys left. The only football conferences that matter are the SEC and the Big Ten. I mean, stop me if you've heard this one before. The SEC and the Big Ten have no use for those of us in the Big 12. No use for that minor league. Right? Right. I'm getting sick of it. You're all probably getting sick of it. But here's the thing. Next time someone tells you the SEC and the Big Ten are just so miles better than the Big 12, and this is real college football and the Big 12 is not, how about we take this? Another ESPN story, which had the most impactful transfer from each of the teams that are in the postseason top 25. And it looked around, and I'm sensing a theme here when I look through it. I go, yeah, that name sounds familiar. Oh, and that name sounds familiar too. Because of the top 25, four of them were Big 12 quarterbacks. Not just Big 12 players, but the most important position on the field. They're getting them from the Big 12. And they have the audacity to tell us that our league doesn't matter in the grand scheme of college football. Because the number one team in the country, the Big 10 team that just dog-walked everybody to the national championship at 15-0, the Indiana Hoosiers, they're getting their starting quarterback from next year from the Big 12. Josh Hoover, literally number one on the list. Josh Hoover at Indiana. You've got Rocco Becht at Penn State. You've got Sam Levitt at LSU. You do have Brendan Sorsby at Tech. So that's one Big 12 team feeding off another. I get that. And that's not even including the fact that, Michigan got their head coach from the Big 12. Maybe arguably a more important position. And again, I'm just looking at quarterbacks and that one head coach example. But like USC's on here is Jontez Williams, the cornerback from Iowa State. It just keeps going. Michigan gets their edge rusher from Utah, of course, following Kyle Whittingham. But everywhere you go, you're seeing more Big 12. You're seeing Big 12 taking from the Big 12 in the case of Sorsby, in the case of Omarion Miller going from Arizona State, from Colorado. It's all over the place, man. So I just get tickled by this. The SEC and the Big 10 is so big time, they don't need us at all, except for when they need to go out and get someone to play the most important position on the field. Then they need the Big 12. Then they need us. And it's not the first time that has happened. It's not. And again, look at when Michigan opened up. They get Kyle Whittingham, which is a really good hire, in my opinion. But who did they want first? SEC coach? Another Big Ten coach? Or was it Kenny Dillingham? Again, I'm just, was LSU's first choice Sam Levitt? No, it wasn't. It was a different Big 12 quarterback. When LSU, with their endless pockets and their $90 million a year head coach, or $90 million head coach, not a year, that'd be crazy. When Big Bad LSU needs to go out and buy a quarterback, their top two are in the Big 12. I heard it a bunch last year. Those of us in this conference are talking about how good the quarterback play was. And again, all I heard was, minor league. Big 12. Of course, they could put those numbers up in the Big 12. What can they do up here? I had to throw some Penn State, I guess, in there. Big 10. Proof is in the pudding. when you go out there and you spend top dollar on the best players that college football money can buy, you're looking at the Big 12. And by the way, Indiana Hoosiers, my apologies, 16-0. And they went out and got Diet Sawyer Robertson. Good for them. So SEC, Big Ten, you guys need us. You need us. So I'd be careful at who you're trying to wipe off the map in college football. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Is this just one of those weak hang the banner kind of moments? Or is this legit? The SEC and the Big Ten need us in the Big 12. Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, we're coming at you every weekday, dropping in the mornings on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts as well. Join the Everydayer Club, too. I mean, nothing better than ad-free audio of this show. And when we come back, let's talk about basketball this weekend, tomorrow and on Sunday. Baylor men have a very intriguing game against UCF, a team that is kind of the envy of a lot of the Big 12 right now, but we've got a surprise X-factor in that game. We'll tell you who it is next on Locked On Baylor. But first, the biggest stretch. No, that's not what I want. That's not the one I want. The biggest stretch is me thinking that I know what I'm actually going to read. Coast Pay is giving Locked On Baylor listeners up to $2,000 credit for your business when you get started today. So let me ask you this, or let me throw this at you. If you're managing a crew, I'm talking construction, HVAC, landscaping, any operation with trucks on the road, snow plowing around here, you already know how messy gas and materials and spending can get. Cards get shared, the receipts disappear, month end turns into a complete headache. Well, Coast Pay fixes all of that. It is the modern fuel card and expense management tool built specifically for fleets. Fuel, maintenance, materials, all on one card with real control and instant visibility. You're getting real-time alerts, so you always know who's spending what and where. You got fraud protection with employee check-ins by text, so no shared pins. And guess what? It works anywhere Visa is accepted. Okay, no detours to specific stations. They don't have an ulterior motive like that. Right now, Coast Pay is offering our listeners up to $2,000 credit when you get started at coastpay.com/lockedoncollege. That's coast like the coastline. Okay, go to coastpay.com/lockedoncollege to see how you can earn up to $2,000 credit. Now, terms do apply. The Coast Visa commercial credit card is issued by Celtic Bank. All card accounts are subject to credit approval. All right, yes. Although losing to Arizona in a hard-fought game probably ended any chance Baylor had of sneaking into the NCAA tournament, they would have needed to go on a run after that as well. And it sounds like it's eliminating them from the Crown, which is the second-best tournament. I'm learning that this week. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I haven't had to pay attention to the Crown in its existence because Baylor's usually in the NCAA tournament. But all that said, college basketball season is still going on. And the male Bears travel to Disney World, wonderful Orlando, for a Saturday night matchup with UCF, which to me is the most intriguing team, if not the most intriguing program in the Big 12. I don't know, like obviously the last 10 years or 5 years or even 3 years, I'm not switching spots with UCF, but I find it remarkable with how little resources they have for a school that big that go towards basketball with zero basketball pedigree at all, that Johnny Dawkins makes this work. You know, he is to UCF what Arizona State thought Bobby Hurley was going to be. Or apparently what the ASU administration still thinks Bobby Hurley is. I don't know. Like Johnny Dawkins going to 4 tournaments in 10 years at UCF is much more impressive than Bobby Hurley doing the same thing at Arizona State. They're making the most of their money, and boy, have they been in the news this week. They just kicked the crap out of BYU in Provo. I know there was no Richie Saunders, but, I mean, they took BYU to the woodshed. They were up 24 points at the half and just bullied them all night, like kind of let them back in the game a little bit in garbage time, but were just dominating them. And at one point, the points in the paint were 38-18. BYU closed that gap because they only lost the points in the paint margin by 10. But again, a lot of that was garbage time. And Baylor has kind of struggled there this year. They were even in points in the paint against Arizona. They had a 4-point edge against Arizona State in a 7-point game. That's kind of a big deal. But they don't have great interior scorers. You know, Caden Powell's not that. Tunde Yesufu has had his struggles finishing at the rim this year. Their guards don't really get to the rim very well at all, like they have in years past with guys like Rob Wright and, you know, sometimes Ray J. Dennis, sometimes Keontae George. They don't have that right now, and that's why I think UCF is a dangerous team. It's kind of something's got to give here because UCF is, or I should say Baylor is usually worse than their opponents when it comes to scoring in the paint, but Baylor is better than UCF at basically every rebounding metric that we have. And I look at the X factors in this game. Of course, the first name I thought of was Themis Fulks. Fulks for UCF. He's running the show. He's their leading scorer, leading assist guy, 14-7. But the more I look into the stats, I think the sneaky X factor here is Jordan Burks, who did have a nice game against BYU, who didn't for UCF. But Burks is right up there. You know, they don't have a lot of high-profile scorers, but they got a bunch of guys in double digits. Burks averages 13 a game. But his scoring volume goes up in what I would consider big games. And Baylor's not a huge opponent, but when you're scratching and clawing for the NCAA tournament at this time of the year, all of them are big games when you're UCF. And every time, all 5 times that Jordan Burks has gone for 17 or more, so 4 points above his average, all 5 times that they get 17 or more from Jordan Burks, they win. They're 5-0 in those games, and that includes a blowout win over BYU, an upset win over Texas Tech, and a couple more quad 1 victories in there. So they could be getting into the NCAA tournament in large part due to Jordan Burks' big games and having big games when he needs to. Like Fulks has had some games where he scored 30 and they've lost, right? But when Burks hits that magic number of 17, UCF is going to win. And typically they're going to win comfortably. So to me, he's the X factor in this game. I love the way Baylor simplified their offense the other night. I talked about it a lot in that recap of the Arizona game. I think if they kind of use the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, when it comes to their offense, which they absolutely did in Tuesday night's game, then I think Baylor has a shot here. I do. I'm worried about Baylor basketball's game on Sunday, and that, of course, is the women against TCU. I talked about it at length the other day. It probably got a little harsh, but I think this would be embarrassing if you lose 5 straight games to TCU, even though TCU is good, and lose back-to-back Big 12 championships in 3 games to TCU, right? You did it in the regular season last year at home, did it in the conference tournament, and that's exactly what can happen on Sunday in Fort Worth. If TCU wins, they would back-to-back Big 12 championships. And where you were the last time that you played TCU, to be in that position now sucks. Straight up. Like, yeah, I say TCU's a good team, as in there's no shame in losing to them. But 5 straight times, that's where you got to wonder if this is working out. Because the last 2 years, including this one, you have had a veteran-laden roster. Ladies who had been there and done that and had performed in the Big 12. And again, what I see every time is they lose to good teams. Every time. Every game this year since game 1, where they upset Duke, every other time they've had to face a good team, they falter. And they usually lose pretty comfortably. The last 2 against ranked teams, they have lost by a combined, 47 points? 31 to Tech and 16 to TCU? You know, you might not win the Big 12 championship here, but can you show me that you can beat a good team? Can you play spoiler for your biggest rival? That's what I'm looking for on Sunday. What are you looking for? Let me know in the comment section below. Then be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Find that Everydayer Club. We've got the link in the description. Find that Everydayer Club for ad-free audio to be part of that exclusive fraternity/sorority of the Locked On Baylor Everydayer Club. Guys, thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. We will see you on Monday on the next edition of your favorite show. Ooh, it'll be March then. Locked On Baylor.